This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread. Today, we're going to look at lean management and continuous improvement. In our last episode, I dealt with the various operational models and how they have morphed, evolved over the last century now. And after that episode, I actually had someone who's listening to these things in real time as they release, and they sent me an email at Justin@Financially Simple. That's the way if you have a question, a comment, want me to address something. So Justin@FinanciallySimple.com. You can shoot me an email anytime you have a question, you heard something, you say, hey, Justin, I disagree with you. I get some of those. And, you know, I've had to come back and correct some things that I maybe misspoke on. But this particular listener, they said, hey, Justin, look, I know you often deal with service business, and I'm kind of a hybrid. I deal with manufacturing and service, and I'm interested to see your take on lean and continuous improvement systems. And so I wanted to slide this episode in just after our last episode, episode 116, talking about how the various operational systems have morphed over the years, and give you a little insight into my brain on this lean and continuous improvement, kind of where we're at today. And this is geared a little bit more toward manufacturing. Now, manufacturing doesn't have to be tool and die. It can be, believe it or not, I had a dentist's office. I actually have dentists that work in manufacturing capabilities. They're actually manufacturing pieces that go in people's mouths. So they have labs that do manufacturing. Think about the pool builder I often mention. The pool builder is actually manufacturing a pool in somebody's backyard. So they're taking multiple different products and placing them into a new product development. So manufacturing does not have to be, hey, we're creating some sort of an automotive widget or some sort of a component that goes in some technological advancement. Manufacturing actually happens in multiple small businesses today. And many service business has some component of manufacturing. I'm going to go and say that I am not an expert in lean or continuous improvement. I know several. Whenever these problems come up, I have friends who are consultants. They have more credentials in this type of work. In fact, I'm meeting with one today who is a PhD, and he works in the upper markets. So typically businesses with $100 million or greater revenue. And his whole job is just to try to squeak out micros of improvement. It's not even major improvements. And I'm going to pick his brain today on some of the content because I'm treading on about the verge of my knowledge basis here. But I wanted to give you some, as I see it, some foundational concepts that we can work with in this lean or continuous improvement in your small business if you have a manufacturing component to it. Now, some of these principles still work in the service industry. I employ some of these principles in my office, and we are a service industry. So I want to kind of think about the picture we're going to draw today. I've went to Washington, D.C. whenever I was a teenager several times. I want to take my lovely bride to D.C. She's never been, and my children, when they get a little older, I want to take them and see some of the sights. But when you think of Washington, D.C., maybe your mind races to the monuments. Mine does. I can remember sitting in the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, looking at these huge monuments made out of marble, granite, different textures. And I think of that picturesque colonial style monument and the big pillars that often hold it up. I was looking at even ancient Rome. I had a friend who just came back from Rome, and they were showing me some of the pictures of various locations, historical sites. They had these huge pillars holding up the structure, the roofing system on these historical sites. So I want you to put that picture in your mind, and we're going to build a monument today. I'm going to try to do it through words. On our website, we will have a graphic that create a pictorial of what I'm describing. But in word format, I want you to think about the monument being the lean and continuous improvement monument. And so at the bottom of any monument or any structure, there has to be a clear strategic foundation. There has to be a foundation that is perfectly aligned, that's perfectly level, that is as deep as it needs to be to hold the processes above. And that's what we've been dealing with in operations up to this point, is the foundational flows, the foundational structures. Candidly, that's what we've been dealing with for the last 60, 70 episodes. Probably since even the day we started this podcast, is making sure that your business's foundational structures are in line. Friends, I got to tell you, so many small business owners want to jump straight to operational efficiency, and yet they're missing some very basic things in the foundation of their business. Things like payroll structure, things like a hiring process, things like a firing process. These are some basic operational efficiencies. But let's back up even further than that. Why are we in business? What are we doing? Is it to make money? Is it to add goods or services to a community? Is it to expand an outreach of a particular product, a brainchild? Why are you in business? Go back to your values. Go back to your outlook. Go back to your goals. Go back to your SWOT analysis, those things we dealt with in our Vimosta series that we did. So the very first thing in this monument, before we can even get into the lean center, the heartbeat, the pillars and everything else, the things that are beneath the surface that we often don't see, we have to make sure our foundations are strong. We have to make sure we have a clear and strategic vision, mission, foundations, etc. So that's where we go to. You're like, Justin, you've killed that bird. Yep. So we're going to move on past that. So the first thing we're going to notice, let's start the first stair as we climb up to our monument floor. The first stair is we got to manage by fact. We got to manage by fact and not by opinion. Whenever I'm working with manufacturing style service business, we crunch the numbers down to the specifics. I was working with a automotive repair company, and we were looking at the flow of the business, and I wanted to know how long it took, the actual seconds it took to transfer the car rebalancing structure from one bay to the next. And so we had to get down to the exact fact. So we had to manage by the fact, and we had to use appropriate tools. I have been guilty. I'm sure you have as well. I have been guilty of trying to hammer a nail with a screwdriver. It can be done. I have done it. It's not very efficient, though. We need a hammer oftentimes. So we want to manage by fact. We want to have absolute facts in place and not by opinion. Let's take another step up to our monument we're building. You have to have workplace organization, which includes visual management. That's one of the keys to lean management, is having visual aids. I was in Starbucks getting a coffee for a client not too long ago, and I looked, and they actually had little visual aids on every process or every processee that the individual is doing to make that particular latte. It was pretty impressive to me, the visual management tools. Visual management can be a component of a multiple different avenues. It can be to where, like in an auto repair shop, to where you have, here is the size of the container, which is exact match to the amount of oil that needs to go in the car. I saw that at Jiffy Lube not too long ago. So visual management works really well. That's the next step. So workplace organization and visual management. The next step, and we're coming up to the floor of our monument. The next step is standardize and stable processes. Standardized. I'm working on this right now actively in my company. We interview many prospective clients. We do. And I'm trying to figure out how to standardize that particular process, the interview process, to see if we can help somebody or we can't. And I'm working on standardized questions that are penetrating, that are very thought out, very tactical in nature. So we're trying to standardize the onboarding process. You know, in the financial world where we manage money, we actually standardize the account management. We do. We use technology to help us do that. And so you and your business, you can standardize the process. I have a client who runs a cleaning service. They can standardize. They can put a script in place that every person that walks into the facility they're going to clean has the exact same steps. We did this in the landscaping company. I've got a client we're working with right now. We're trying to exponentially grow his landscaping business. We're standardizing the process and making it stable so that every job gets the exact same result. So standardization. That's why we like McDonald's. Well, maybe not, but I mean, you got to know that eating McDonald's French fries and ice cream is just great. Just dipping them in.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
So once we standardize the process, now we've walked up 3 steps. We've laid the foundation. We're managing by fact. We have visual and organizational management, and we have a standardized process. Now we come up to the pillars. And I want you to think of 3 pillars in this particular monument we're building. The first pillar is the delivery of the system. Now, it's often in lean, it's focused on manufacturing, and I'm not going to dive deep into each of these systems today. I just want to give you more of an overview. But when you break out your manufacturing part of your company, after you standardize it, one of the things you have to be sure you focus on is the delivery. This is the flow of the product. This is the pull from the customer to themselves. This is what's called tact time. This is quick changeover. This is workload balancing. So there's 5 different areas there I'll give you. So flow, pull, tact time, quick changeover, and workload balance. So for example, quick changeover. Let's say you are in a manufacturing facility. I worked with one not too long ago. Actually, it's probably been 10 years ago, and this company sold, but they were manufacturing the weed fabric that went underneath your landscape systems. And they had 3 crews running, 3 different shifts, I should say, running. So the operation was going nonstop. Whenever the crews would change, if they didn't keep the changeover, what's called the quick changeover from one crew to the next, then the operation could lose significant revenue. Over a fiscal year, it would be devastating if the changeover wasn't quick. Like even this last week, I was in a fast food restaurant. I was at Subway. I like one of their club subs, and the ink or the tape in the cash register, there was no one who knew how to change it except for the manager who was on a phone call. And so it really delayed the flow of delivery of the product. And I actually watched 3 people walk out of the store because it didn't have a quick changeover just in the simple tape, the ribbon. And they had not trained the cashier how to change the ribbon. And so that's a delivery system. Okay. So after delivery, you deal with environmental. Now, this again is more manufacturing in place, but the 3 rules in environmental, they call it 3 R's, is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Anytime you have products, you want to look for stress point management. You want to make sure your COT budgets and technology solutions are all geared to where as little environmental impact as possible. That's one of the focuses of manufacturing, especially with the legislation and the rules and the, how would I say, the idea of protecting our environment. I think all of us would agree that environmental responsibility leans to all of us. I was in the Western United States this year, and I saw some impacts of little environmental impact. I saw the results, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I've also been up in the New England area where there's 4 gazillion, 100 million, however many people you want to put up there. It was crazy the amount of people. And I saw the impact that poor environmental controls dealt with. Now, I'm not one of these tree huggers. I'm not. I do hug a tree whenever I go deer hunting, but I believe that all of us should have the responsibility of caring for our planet. And that's one of the auspices of lean management. Now, the third pillar we're going to deal with is quality control. So I'm going to give you the mains here. The first one is authority to stop production, error proofing, in-station quality control, and root cause solution. Those are your 4 basic components in the quality pillar. What I often see, one problem we have in small businesses is we don't give our team members the authority to stop, or we don't give them in-station quality control. So let me put a real life example to this. Go back to the weed fabric company that I was consulting on some 10 years ago. We had to have the ability for the line manager to stop production, to shut down the whole line if there was a problem. Before we implemented that particular ability in that particular office, the line manager saw the issues. It wasn't producing the quality of fabric that they needed. And he was trying to get the manager in there. But before they could stop it, before the manager could get to the line, it had gone for like 15 minutes and wasted a significant amount of resources, a significant amount of labor, a significant amount of time. And it would have been less expensive for the company to shut the line down, repair the problem, as opposed to running an inferior product that they ultimately had to dispose of. It was just a simple solution of giving authority to stop, or the authority to make on-the-ground calls at the management level where the product is being pushed. And we call it in-station quality control. We were in a dental office, and we were using a mold to create a particular retainer and it was an in-office production. The hygienist who was helping in that, it was a simple process. I mean, I could have done it, but the hygienist did not have the authority to stop the production. The dentist wanted to micromanage it, and it caused some serious cost. So those are your three pillars in lean management. That's delivery, environmental, and quality control. Now, what are the pillars holding up? If you build that system right, your people and your teamwork, your people are going to be solid, and your teamwork is going to be paramount. That's the first thing that those three areas are holding up. That's getting up to the roof of our building that we're building here, this monument we're building. The second thing is, as you have delivery, environmental, and quality control all supporting your team and your people, now you're going to open up the operation for sustainable and continuous improvement. You're going to have the entire team watching for these areas because of the processes, because of the foundation, because of the focus on those three pillars. And the end result, the pinnacle, the roof of this monument is you're going to have very high engagement. You're going to have the best quality that your company can produce. You're at the best cost with the best turnaround time in a safe environment. So that is my take on lean and continuous improvement. I've totally simplified that process down. I'm telling you, if you go and look at the lean textbooks and the training on that, it's so much more complicated than what I just provided. But in our small businesses, if we understand that ultimately we're trying to get a high engagement amongst our workforce with highest quality, lowest cost, and the best turnaround time in a safe environment, I don't think any of us would argue that's the goals that we want. So as you're going into your business, you may say, Justin, I'm in a service business. I'm not manufacturing. Well, maybe not. You may need to incorporate some lean training. I'm not saying down to the letter, but you may need to incorporate the principles of lean training in your service business. If you are manufacturing, like some of the ones I've mentioned, then you definitely need to have some lean concepts and some continuous improvement concepts in your business. You say, well, Justin, how do I determine that? We're going to deal with that in the next coming episodes, and I'm going to give ultimately a book list here on several books that you may want to pick up and read and get some concepts. You can always hire a consultant. And if you need help globally, reach out to me, Justin at Financially Simple. I had somebody reach out through Twitter and said, brother, I need some help. This was an individual down in Alabama, believe it or not. Alabama. I love my friends in Alabama. I love that part of the country. It's beautiful. It's very, very rural, and I like rural. So I'm going to wrap it up with that this week, guys. I wanted to give you the monument on the lean and continuous improvement. Like I say every week, life is hard. It is. Life is good. Life can be frustrating. Money doesn't have to be. Lean processing, continuous improvement, it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have a PhD. Let's just continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Hey, y'all go out and make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.